Hi, welcome to another episode of the Ambient Mellotron here at the Ambient iPad. Let's make some music. For this video, I'm going to use two sounds from the Mellotron M400 sound set, the bassoon and the English horn. The signal chain is the Mellotron M4000D Mini. Its analog mono output goes into a Focusrite Scarlett 18i8 interface, which communicates back and forth with the iPad Pro through a USB-C hub, which also enables me to power the iPad Pro at the same time. We're back in GarageBand. I'm just doing a linear jam with a couple of different sounds. In this case, we're using the bassoon and the English horn from the Mellotron M400 sound set. So not going to be any overdubs, looping, anything like that. I'm just going to move through a couple of different lines. We'll see, maybe some soloing. So let's open up a new project. Nothing new here. We're going to use voice and fun for clean. I'm going to change the icon to a Mellotron only because they have one, the M400D. The other thing I need to remember to do is to change the amount of bars. Right now it's set to 8, and if I don't do anything, it's just going to keep looping and erasing and re-recording over what I've already done. So I just need to change this to automatic so that it will automatically add bars as we're recording. Let's put monitoring on. All right, so let me just run through the clean sounds before we apply any effects to this. So first we'll listen to the bassoon. All right, and then we'll move to the English horn, also known as a cor anglaise. So it sounds a little bit like an oboe. As a matter of fact, it's very similar to an oboe, but I believe it's 1.5 times the length of an oboe, which is why the sound is a bit different, but definitely part of the oboe family of sounds. So we're going to, I think what I'll do is I'll come up with some, these two instruments together, just slightly more to the balance of the bassoon, only because the English horn will overpower it. But I mean, this gives me it's a kind of very chamber music feel, or even rock chamber music, like a Henry Cow band I'm a big fan of. They used a bassoon. We'll do kind of a chamber music thing. Maybe I'll treat it jazz-like, so I'll come up with a head, couple of lines, and then maybe we'll do a bassoon solo and an English horn solo, and then the head again. But let's see. Actually, let's add some effects first before I get ahead of myself. I do use the onboard GarageBand compression, and actually maybe I'll make a video in the future where I'm just using the GarageBand effects, because they're pretty good, and you do have a lot of options in there. You don't really need to use any plugins, but I do have compression plugins. But to be honest, I'm fine with the GarageBand one. Just evens out, smooths everything out. All right, I'd like to use, well, first of all, let's do our usual ritual of deleting Effect EQ, which still don't know what it does. You click on it, nothing happens, so still waiting. Still waiting for someone to explain to me what that does. Let's have a little modulation here, and I think just a little bit of chorus. That's way too much chorus. Cool, does sound cool. FAC Chorus is really good, very vintage sounding, vintage being kind of 70s, early 80-ish, not from the sound, but the interface. Certainly it's a very 70s kind of chorus, but very rich, very warm. Those are thick. The classic one, this is what I use a lot, but we should only have to turn the dry mix down, so let me start with it at 0. And then I'm thinking we're not going to need much here, maybe 10% if I can get it to 10%. This is the fun about the iPad, right? Ooh, ooh, almost there. Like, I shouldn't care that it went to 10.2%, but I do. And I've used the Apple Pencil too. It doesn't make it any easier, at least for me, to get those fine movements. So there's a little there. It's just kind of making it slightly richer, slightly expanded across the soundscape. I have not added anything else yet, so we are dealing with essentially 2 mono sounds. The bassoon and the English horn, 1 mono sound. It's just a mono output. So if I turn it off, so that's really in the center. And this just opens it slightly, but because in the case of this jam, I do want the true sound of the bassoon and the horn to come through. I'm just going to use that little bit. You get a little volume boost too, which is actually fine since I'm not going to be turning anything on and off. We're going minimal with effects today, and to be honest, so I'm going to add some reverb. I could just use the GarageBand reverb. I don't use Black Hole. I've used that a bit. Actually, let's use AudioReverb by Virsyn. It has a lot of presets. So sorry about that. Okay. A little hung up on my words. So you have halls. You have lots of halls, chambers, spaces, ambience, big spaces, rooms. It's a great app. I highly recommend it. We're just going to go basic here with a concert hall. But I can tell you I'm going to want to lower the wet dry mix. So that's huge. Let's go down to 70%. See what that does. I found actually with this app, 70% is a good setting. Most things are defaulted to 80%, and I end up going through a lot of patches and kind of winnowing it down, and then I discovered that I can just rely on a few patches and just use the wet dry mix. I like that. I'll tell you why, because when you're playing, you can hear the instrument very clearly, but with a little space around it, but it's not overpowered by the reverb while you're playing. But if you stop, then you get a little bit of the tails, but the decay is pretty quick, so we'll stick with that. And you can hear the reverb in stereo with the original sounds kind of still in the center, so let's add Spatializer just to see if we can open up the soundscape a little bit. Let's front to back, front and back. Okay, that does open it up a little. Psychoacoustically, it gives me the impression that I can hear a little bit to the back, a little bit to the left. Turn it off. Hear how the sound's completely in the center. Turn it on. Just spreads it out a little bit. And actually, it might be a little too much. Try 55. Because at its heart, this is really a type of reverb. So I'm doubling up reverbs, which is why I always lower the amount, the dry wet, the amount of the effect in the signal. Okay, that's good. And then the bassoon. And the English horn, cor anglaise. All right, that's a lot louder, so yeah, so there's substantial loudness there. So if I'm doing a head and then a solo and then maybe the head again and then another solo, again, I'm going to use, even though it's a chamber music feel, I'm going to kind of use a jazz composition construction paradigm of head, solo, head, solo, head. So the bassoon English horn. So I'm going to have to lower the volume of the English horn during the jam. And that's why I also said that from the mix, it's just slightly more to the bassoon, or the English horn overpowers it. Actually, I've got it in the center, and it's yeah, once you start getting to the center, I mean, I'm a little less than center. All right, let's see what we would do for a line here. I do like that low. Maybe we'll use A minor. Something like that. No, too high. So start here. And something's got to come out of that. It's too similar. Can I tie those together somehow? Okay, that's our head. We would have to somehow go out of this. And then into the solos. So maybe I need another little bit. So that would be 3 different lines for the head. That would always end the head. So it would go... Okay, I think I'd want to stretch that out a little. And then how are we going to go to the solo? Let's just do that end bit and see. Bum note, but yeah, actually, let's do the solos in a different key. Let's try that again. Just the end bit. I'm only doing this so I don't forget it. Okay, that'll work for that. I'm not going to be able to do the same thing of hitting a note and just jamming down to the English horn because it's so much louder. I may have to pause and then pick up the English horn solo on the next beat. Let's see how that would work just with the ending. Then turn that, and then all right, we've got our effects. So I think that's the way I'll do it. We've got a head, bassoon solo, repeat the head. Maybe the first head I should do it twice. That's kind of classic, right? So we'll do the head twice, bassoon solo, and of course that little bit, this thing, that ends the heads. So I wouldn't do that bit twice. I would do like that, and then end with the bassoon solo, come back, do one of those again, English horn solo, and then end it with one the head, and then but this bit we would repeat that at the end and then hold on that. Almost sounds like an organ. Yeah, I think this will work. Let me just double check a few things, and we'll come back and we'll do this. Couple of bum notes, and there was one point where I felt like the timing may have been going off the rails. But this is a jam, this is an improvisation, so I'm not going to go back and fix things, and I'm not really going to make multiple recordings to try to get a perfect one. I've been playing different instruments for over 45 years, and the one thing I've learned, at least for myself, is that no matter how much I practice something, I'm always going to make a mistake or two. Usually most folks don't notice them, particularly if you're in a band situation. Other instruments cover that up, but when you're just playing solo, they're a little more noticeable. So apologies for that, but that's part and parcel of what I'm doing here. We're live, it's a jam, it's an improvisation, and warts and all, as they say. Well, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and good luck with your own music.